Welcome to this explainer. So today we're unpacking a really fascinating document that shows exactly how one local government is, well, actively bracing for the massive physical reality of the internet. We're looking directly at Ordinance number 2026 from East Rockhill Township. It's honestly a brilliant case study in how municipalities are basically rewriting their rule books to deal with the sheer physical scale of modern tech. Okay, let's dive right into this by asking kind of a simple question. Where does the cloud actually live? I mean, we say the cloud every single day, right? Making it sound like this invisible, weightless ether just floating above us. But the reality? The digital ether actually resides firmly in the physical world. It lives in massive concrete buildings packed with endless rows of servers, blinking lights, and roaring cooling systems. And towns, like East Rockhill, are suddenly realizing they need strict, specific rules for when the cloud decides to move into their neighborhood. Now, what's really interesting here is how East Rockhill explicitly defines these facilities. They aren't just relying on old, outdated terminology. They are actively making sure to capture buzzworthy, high-impact tech. In fact, straight from the source, they specifically include cryptocurrency mining, blockchain transaction processing, and server farms in their definition of a data center. Basically, they're future-proofing their zoning laws, making absolutely sure no massive crypto mining operation can just sneak in under some vague commercial office loophole. Pretty smart, right? And the town is corralling these massive structures in a very specific way. The ordinance's official table of use regulations lays this out perfectly. If you check out category H19, which is data centers, you'd see a whole lot of Ns, meaning not permitted, across almost all the zoning districts. But over in the Industrial 1 and Industrial 2 districts, there's a C. That stands for conditional use. So what does that mean for us? It means data centers aren't just allowed by right anywhere, they are strictly confined to industrial zones. And even there, they face intense scrutiny and have to meet a huge list of specific conditions before a single shovel even hits the dirt. Section 1. Drawing the boundary lines. Let's take a quick look at how they are sizing up the data center. So the first absolutely crucial point is the sheer scale required. 50 acres. Yup, that is the minimum lot size mandatory just to start building a data center in East Rockhill. To put that into perspective for you, 50 acres is roughly 38 football fields. The town is making it crystal clear. If you want to bring the cloud here, you need a massive, dedicated campus. This entirely stops developers from trying to cram these incredibly resource-heavy facilities onto small, inappropriate plots of land. Next up, we've got the vertical limit. They've instituted a strict 45-foot maximum height limit. But what's really clever here is exactly how the ordinance is written. It explicitly states that this height limit includes projections through the roof, stuff like elevator towers, heating and cooling units, and parapet walls. You see, data centers generate intense heat and need massive rooftop cooling units. The town strategically accounts for the parapet walls needed to hide those ugly units from public view, making sure the entire structure, camouflage included, stays strictly under that 45-foot ceiling. Furthermore, there's a significant 200-foot mandatory setback from all property lines. Now, a setback is just the distance a building has to be kept away from the edge of the property. But 200 feet? That is a massive buffer zone. The township is demanding this to keep the immense tech footprint heavily buffered from neighboring properties. They basically want a wide physical barrier between the heavy industrial reality of a data center and, whatever happens to be next door. And speaking of neighbors, let's talk about noise. To combat the notorious, relentless hum of data center cooling fans, the ordinance mandates strict sound assessments. And they don't just say, keep it quiet. No, the law specifically requires sound to be measured right at the property line, exactly 1.5 meters off the ground, which actually is right about human ear level. And you can't just walk out there with a smartphone app. This assessment has to be performed by a professional acoustic engineer who actually has to submit their resume to the township. It's just a brilliantly targeted regulation to protect the peace and quiet of the local community. Section 2. Power, Water, and Environment. It's time to look at fueling the cloud. To actually get approved, a developer must face a pretty brutal bureaucratic utility review. First off, applicants have to demonstrate exhaustive efforts to provide on-lot electricity before they can even tap into the public grid. Second, they need will-serve letters proving the public utilities actually have the capacity for them. And third, and this is a huge one, any water withdrawal over 100,000 gallons a day requires special Delaware River Basin Commission approval. Remember, data centers use millions of gallons of water just for cooling. East Rockhill is stepping up to ensure their local aquifers and rivers aren't literally sucked dry by a server farm. Honestly, the town is leaving absolutely nothing to chance when it comes to the environment and safety. The ordinance requires utility lines to be placed underground wherever practical. They've also strictly capped visible air emissions at 20% opacity, meaning you shouldn't be seeing any dark smoke billowing out from backup generators. And if a data center wants on-site energy, like electrical substations or fuel cells, they need direct written approval from the township fire chief. Oh, and not only that, they have to submit a comprehensive safety plan that requires mandatory annual recertification to ensure they're always prepared for emergencies. And just to ensure the massive build-out of these 50-acre campuses doesn't completely disrupt the community, heavy machinery, drilling, and demolition are strictly contained. Construction can only happen between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, so no Sunday wake-up calls from bulldozers building the cloud. All right, Section 3, Farms, Fowl, and Contractors. Let's look at grounding local reality. Here, the town is drawing a really clear legal distinction between commercial agriculture and residential hobbies. The ordinance amends the general farming rules to clarify that keeping up to 100 fowl per acre is a principal agricultural use. They explicitly separate this from the uses which govern a resident just keeping, say, a few backyard homestead chickens as an accessory to their house. It's a perfect example of local government just tidying things up, making sure their rules work for both the full-time farmer and the weekend homesteader. And finally, tucked away near the end, the town performs a bit of practical housekeeping. Just to ensure there is absolutely zero confusion for local business owners, the town explicitly added the word landscaping into their official definition of a contracting business. Now, it seems super small, right? But in zoning law, if it's not explicitly written down, it can cause major legal headaches down the road. They are proactively smoothing out the friction for local entrepreneurs. So as we wrap up, we'll leave you with this final provocative question to consider. How is your own local government preparing? I mean, we all love the convenience of the cloud, right? Fast streaming, instant data. But as East Rockhill Township shows us, that convenience requires massive acreage, towering infrastructure, millions of gallons of water, and incredibly strict acoustic controls. So is your town ready when the internet decides to build a concrete fortress right down the street? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go look up your own local zoning laws. You might really be surprised by what you find.